The door should not have existed beneath the university basement, because every blueprint showed nothing except solid concrete beyond the old furnace room. I only found it after hearing scratching noises behind the walls during my overnight shift, and the sound stopped the exact moment my flashlight landed on the rusted iron handle. What waited beyond that hidden doorway still follows me every night, and sometimes I wonder if opening it condemned more than just me. 3 months earlier, I had accepted a temporary archival position at Blackthorn University, an ancient Victorian campus buried beneath constant rain and fog near the edge of the countryside. The administration hired me to organize damaged records stored in the lower basement after flooding had ruined part of the historical archives. Everyone working there avoided discussing the underground levels, especially the maintenance tunnels sealed decades ago after several disappearances nobody officially acknowledged. My supervisor, Eleanor Graves, warned me never to explore beyond the marked storage areas because the lower tunnels were structurally unstable and filled with asbestos contamination. Despite her calm voice, I noticed genuine fear in her eyes whenever the subject surfaced during conversation in the archive office late at night. Sometimes she would stop speaking entirely whenever distant banging noises echoed upward through the pipes beneath our feet. During my second week underground, I began noticing strange symbols carved into the brick walls behind filing cabinets and old record shelves. The markings resembled twisted trees wrapped around human figures, and several included Latin phrases scratched deeply into the stone using something sharp enough to gouge through brick. I photographed them one evening, but every image later appeared distorted, as though the symbols shifted position whenever captured on camera. The strange events escalated after I discovered a collection of missing student reports hidden inside an unlabeled cabinet near the furnace room. Most dated back to the late 1800s, yet several newer files described disappearances occurring as recently as the early 1990s beneath the university grounds. Every report mentioned witnesses hearing whispers underground shortly before the victims vanished without leaving behind a single trace. One stormy evening, the power failed across the basement while I worked alone cataloguing damaged manuscripts beside the leaking boiler system. As emergency lights flickered weakly through the darkness, I heard footsteps moving slowly beyond the concrete wall behind the furnace room, where no hallway supposedly existed. The scratching sound returned moments later, followed by a voice whispering my name from somewhere beneath the floor. Fear should have driven me upstairs immediately, yet curiosity pulled me toward the hidden section of wall behind stacked maintenance shelves and rusted pipes. After moving several crates aside, I uncovered the outline of an iron door concealed beneath layers of peeling paint and decades of dust. The handle felt strangely warm against my hand, and the moment I opened it, cold air carrying the smell of old paper and decay rushed from the darkness below. A narrow stone staircase spiraled deep underground beyond the hidden entrance, descending far below any level marked on university maps or maintenance records. The walls were lined with tarnished brass lamps that somehow flickered alive one by one as I stepped downward into the abyss. Somewhere below me, buried beneath layers of earth and stone, countless whispers rose together like voices turning pages inside a cathedral of the dead. The staircase led me into a massive underground library, unlike anything I had ever imagined existing beneath the university grounds. Endless shelves stretched into darkness beneath vaulted Victorian ceilings, while thousands of ancient books rested silently behind iron cages covered in dust and cobwebs. Every surface smelled of mildew, candle wax, and something disturbingly organic that reminded me of a hospital morgue. At first, the library appeared abandoned for centuries because thick dust coated the reading tables and cobblestone floors between the towering shelves. Then I noticed fresh candle wax dripping beside several open books, arranged carefully across a long oak desk near the center aisle. Someone had been there recently, and judging from the still-burning candle hidden deeper inside the archive, they might still have been nearby. I approached one of the nearest shelves and removed a massive leather-bound volume whose cover felt disturbingly soft beneath my fingertips. Faded gold lettering identified it as a collection of funeral records dating back to 1871, yet the texture resembled scarred human flesh rather than ordinary leather. When I opened the book, several brittle pages contained handwritten entries describing surgical procedures performed on living patients beneath the university. The deeper I wandered into the library, the stranger the architecture became as hallways shifted direction and shelves appeared where none existed moments earlier. Several passages ended abruptly against brick walls, covered with identical twisted tree symbols I had photographed upstairs in the basement archives. Sometimes distant whispers echoed between the shelves, repeating fragments of conversations spoken in voices that sounded painfully familiar. I eventually discovered a hidden reading room containing dozens of phonograph cylinders, stacked beside antique recording equipment covered in dust and dried stains. One cylinder still functioned when I carefully activated the machine, releasing a distorted recording of terrified screaming followed by calm Victorian voices discussing memory preservation experiments. The recording ended with someone repeatedly begging the librarians not to remove his skin, while wet tearing sounds echoed faintly beneath the static. At that point, I genuinely did not know what to do because every instinct told me to flee while I still could. If you had discovered what I found buried beneath that university, would you have escaped immediately or kept searching for answers hidden inside those endless underground halls? I wish now that fear had been stronger than curiosity, because what happened afterward destroyed every certainty I once had about reality. I returned to the library several nights later, carrying a camera, audio recorder, and copies of historical documents stolen from the university archives upstairs. Research revealed the existence of a secret Victorian society known as the Keepers of Ash, founded by surgeons, scholars, and occultists, obsessed with preserving consciousness through written memory. According to surviving records, they believed human skin carried fragments of the soul capable of trapping thoughts long after death. The society vanished officially after a devastating fire destroyed part of Blackthorn University during the 1890s, yet no bodies belonging to the group were ever recovered from the ruins. Hidden correspondence suggested many members relocated their experiments underground, where they continued operating in secret beneath the campus foundations. Several letters referenced a living archive described only as the heart of the library, waiting beneath the lowest level. My dreams became unbearable after those discoveries, because every night I wandered endless underground corridors, while faceless librarians watched silently from between the shelves. Sometimes they handed me books, bound in pale skin, bearing my name embossed across the covers in gold lettering still wet with blood. Each dream ended beside a locked iron gate where something enormous breathed slowly behind the darkness beneath the library floor. During another visit underground, I discovered fresh footprints crossing the dusty stone corridors towards sections previously blocked by collapsed shelves and debris. Following them led me into a hidden archive chamber filled with portraits of missing students, university staff, and strangers spanning more than 100 years. Every portrait subject had their eyes scratched away, except one recent photograph showing me standing inside the basement archives during my first week at Blackthorn University. Panic overtook me as I realized someone underground had been watching me long before I discovered the hidden entrance behind the furnace room upstairs. Then the library lights extinguished simultaneously, plunging the endless corridors into suffocating darkness, broken only by distant whispering voices surrounding me from every direction. Something moved quickly between the shelves nearby, dragging wet footsteps closer while breathing through a throat filled with liquid. I ran blindly through shifting corridors until I reached an iron staircase descending below the main archive, into levels absent from every map and journal I had uncovered. The air grew warmer and thicker with the metallic smell of blood, while strange chanting echoed upward from the darkness below like prayers spoken backward. Human bones lined the staircase walls in elaborate patterns, and thousands of pages covered with frantic handwriting fluttered across the floor around my feet. At the bottom waited a cathedral-sized chamber, illuminated by hundreds of candles surrounding a grotesque machine, constructed from brass, flesh, and stitched human remains. Massive shelves built from bones stretched toward the ceiling, while countless skin-bound books pulsed slowly like breathing organs within iron cages. Suspended above the chamber hung a monstrous figure formed from tangled limbs and partially preserved faces, whispering endless fragments of memories stolen from the dead. The creature noticed me immediately, because every face stitched into its body opened identical hollow eyes and turned toward my position simultaneously. Voices poured from the entity in overlapping waves, repeating secrets, childhood memories, and conversations nobody except me should ever have remembered hearing. Then I understood the horrifying truth, because the library was not preserving memories at all, but feeding upon them to keep the creature alive beneath the university. One surviving librarian emerged from the shadows beside the grotesque machine, wearing blood-stained Victorian robes stitched together from strips of pale human skin. He explained calmly that every book inside the archive contained harvested memories extracted during ritualistic surgeries performed on victims, brought underground over generations. According to him, the entity beneath the library consumed identity itself, and the librarians merely fed it enough memories to prevent it from escaping into the world above. Before I could flee, the creature released a deafening scream that shook dust from the ceiling, while the shelves around me began collapsing inward violently. Books burst open across the chamber as thousands of loose pages swirled through the air, carrying fragmented memories belonging to countless trapped victims. I saw flashes of missing students screaming during surgeries, terrified children wandering underground corridors, and my own childhood memories drifting loose among them like torn photographs. The surviving librarian grabbed me while chaos consumed the chamber and attempted to drag me toward the massive machine standing beneath the suspended creature. He claimed the entity had chosen me because my memories possessed unusual clarity, capable of strengthening the archive permanently after decades of decay. As he forced me toward the operating table, I noticed several old photographs scattered nearby, showing previous victims whose skin had been transformed into books lining the shelves around us. Desperation gave me enough strength to break free and shove the librarian backward into the machinery surrounding the creature above the chamber. Metal gears snapped violently, while sparks ignited spilled chemicals across the floor, causing fire to spread rapidly through the underground archive and surrounding shelves. The entity shrieked so loudly, blood poured from my ears as burning books exploded around the chamber, releasing countless trapped voices into the darkness. I escaped through collapsing corridors, while flames consumed the underground library beneath Blackthorn University, and smoke filled every passage behind me. Somewhere deep below, the creature continued screaming through thousands of overlapping voices, begging me not to leave it alone beneath the earth again. Just before reaching the hidden staircase near the furnace room, I heard one final whisper behind me, spoken clearly in my own voice. Authorities later blamed the fire on damaged electrical wiring beneath the university basement, despite discovering impossible structural damage extending far below official building foundations. Blackthorn University permanently sealed the underground levels afterward, and administrators denied the existence of any hidden library beneath the campus grounds. Every document connected to the Keepers of Ash vanished mysteriously from the archives within days of the investigation ending. I resigned immediately after the fire and moved across the country, hoping distance would erase the nightmares and fragmented memories haunting me every night afterward. Unfortunately, pieces of my past slowly disappeared over the following months, while strange gaps formed inside conversations and childhood recollections I once remembered perfectly. Sometimes friends described events we experienced together that I could no longer recall at all. The worst part began 6 months later, when anonymous packages started arriving outside my apartment without return addresses or postal records. Each contained loose pages bound in soft pale leather covered with handwritten memories describing moments from my life no stranger should possibly know about. Several passages detailed experiences I had never lived through, including descriptions of underground corridors and rituals occurring after the library supposedly burned completely. One package contained a photograph showing the hidden underground chamber intact and untouched by fire, despite official reports claiming the collapse destroyed everything beneath the university. Standing among the shelves was a tall figure, wearing Victorian robes stitched from human skin, while dozens of pale faces watched silently from the darkness overhead. Written across the back in fresh ink were 5 words that still keep me awake every night. The library remembers what survives. I have never returned to Blackthorn University, yet sometimes I wake during the night hearing pages turning somewhere inside my apartment, despite living completely alone. Recently, I discovered strange scars appearing slowly across my back, resembling words carved beneath the skin from the inside outward by invisible hands. The doctors claim stress causes hallucinations, but last week I found dirt beneath my fingernails, smelling exactly like the underground tunnels beneath the university. Yesterday morning, another package appeared outside my door wrapped carefully in brown paper, stained with something dark and dry along the edges. Inside rested a newly bound book, covered in pale leather, softer than human skin should ever feel, and embossed across the front in gold lettering was my full name. When I finally gathered enough courage to open it, the first page described me sitting here now, writing these final words, while something whispered softly behind my bedroom door. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Grave Nova Stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next nightmare.